Not one that we would accept, of course, but one could make that case. Now, deism is a lot closer to theism than it is atheism.
So I work in a non-Christian environment. One of the doctors I work for is a deist. I was wondering, since I think he's taken the first step in the right direction, but I was wondering what you would think I should do to kind of get him to take the next step into thinking that there's a relational God.
Well, I would ask him, why is he a deist? Like, what evidence do you have that deism's true? And see what he says. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was asking him, and he said that he doesn't believe that science alone got us here, i.e. evolution. He said there has to be a God. So he believes that there is a God. He just believes in the watchmaker God.
Okay, well then what does he do with the fact that the universe is still held together? Because that's not a absent God. That's a God who's holding things together. What does he do with the creation of life, which came after, obviously, the creation of the universe? What does he do with the moral law written on his heart, which says, say it's wrong to torture babies for fun? What does he do with the evidence for the resurrection? What does he do with all of these things? I would ask him, how do you explain these things if God is just an absent God who creates and then leaves things? I would ask him that question. By the way, I'm glad you brought that up, because about 10 years ago, Lawrence Krauss, who used to be a professor here at Arizona State, and Richard Dawkins, probably the most famous atheist in the world, went on a college tour. And at one point, they're talking to one another on stage going, you know, one could make a pretty good case for a deistic God. Not one that we would accept, of course, but one could make that case. Now, deism is a lot closer to theism than it is atheism. Why would they make a case for a deistic God? Well, there's a creation, so there must be a creator. The universe is fine-tuned. There must be some kind of fine-tuner. The thing that a deistic God does not bring with him that a theistic God does is morality. And I think that's really the issue there. In fact, Lawrence Krauss said, I'm not an atheist. I'm an anti-theist, like my friend Christopher Hitchens. What does that mean? Doesn't mean that he just doesn't believe in God, is that he doesn't want there to be a God. He's admitting that his reason to be against God is not intellectual, it's moral or volitional. And Thomas Nagel from NYU, a brilliant philosopher from NYU, wrote a book in 2011 called Mind and Cosmos, Mind and Cosmos, why the neo-Darwinian view of the world is almost certainly false. And this really bothered a lot of atheists, because Nagel was just being honest. He's saying, look, there's no real way to explain why there's a universe, why it's fine-tuned, where life came from. But he doesn't want to say it's a theistic God. He's looking for some other solution. But he's saying the atheistic viewpoint doesn't work. And in an earlier book, Nagel said, it's not just that I don't believe in God. He said, I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be this way or that way. He said, one of the most challenging things for me, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, one of the most challenging things for me is some of the most intelligent people I know are religious believers. And that bothers him. So I would just ask a bunch of questions. I would also ask him, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? I'd also ask him, how much have you read on this? And see what he says.
Yeah. He said that he goes to a Baptist church, and he said that he technically classifies as a Baptist, but he himself said he was a deist. Is there any way that I can kind of squeak in, like, well, you know, the whole Jesus aspect? Because being a deist, you know, Jesus is kind of disregarded.
Well, ask him, who is Jesus? Why is Jesus the most influential human being in the world if he didn't rise from the dead? Why? He's an itinerant preacher from an obscure part of the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago. He never traveled more than 200 miles from his home. He never wrote a book. He never led an army. He never started a business. He never did he wasn't a politician. He never did anything that most people today would be considered great from a worldly perspective, yet 20 centuries have passed and he's the center of the human race. How did that happen? So I would ask him that.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.